Hey guys, welcome to another great installment of the Pay-Per-Review Wrestling Podcast. I am your host, Mark Flores. We're here talking about what makes a great four-star match. A lot of people have been discussing with me what great matches they've seen recently as far as the calendar year 2015 and 2016. And, I give them quite a few reference points on what matches are good to see and what matches aren't good to see. Lately, the question comes up that a lot of people need answering, and that is what makes a great four-star match. In my opinion, a lot of things can go into it, but let's start with the terms first. A man by the name of Dave Meltzer. He is a writer and he's a scout for giving perspective on wrestling matches for Wrestling Observer newsletter. WON, basically the holy Bible of wrestling perspectives, opinions, and statistical record keeping. So he is pretty much the one that coined the term 4-star, 5-star match. The scale goes from 5, which is basically perfect, which goes to, one of the most perfect matches you'll ever see is Ricky Steamboat and Macho Man Randy Savage at WrestleMania. That match was pretty much done perfectly. It was a technical marvel to wonder. I've watched that match plenty of times. And I can definitely tell you it was a perfect match to see. Let me grab my segments here real quick, but first and foremost, what I want to do is I want to get the commercials out of the way. This pay-per-review wrestling podcast has been brought to you by Game Swappers. Game Swappers, buy, sell, and trade your retro games and next-gen consoles. That's PS4 and Xbox One. You could come into contact with Game Swappers on Instagram at GAMESWAPPERS. That's GAMESWAPPERS. Game Swappers, buy, sell, and trade. Keep in mind, guys, that if you do share any which one of my podcasts through any form of social media, you screenshot it to me or Game Swappers, you'll get 10% off towards your retro game purchase or 10% more towards your retro trade-ins. The retro trade-in promotion is only offered in-store only, and the 10% off towards any purchase is done U.S. only. Game Swappers does ship nationally across the United States, across all 50 states. So if you do like something you see on the Instagram Game Swappers page, be sure to let them know, and they'll be sure to send it out. Game Swappers, buy, sell, and trade. Okay, so back to where we were, is that Dave Meltzer is the one that writes these scales and gives perspective on these matches to, see which ones are 1 to 5 star. From what I have here, the question goes is that, what makes a 4 to 5 star match? In my opinion, it's a match that's very technically sound. We're talking good counters, no botches, little outside interference to get the win. Most of these matches are done by just pure wrestling. There's no stipulations mainly. Some matches like the Shawn Michaels Undertaker Hell in the Cell match, that was really great to see. So there's some exceptions to this rule. The Razor Ramon Shawn Michaels ladder match at WrestleMania 10, that's another one to marvel at. But what we want to give out here is another point. A match that's technically sound. You have crazy counters and maneuvers that come out of nowhere. You have moves that you think are going to go one way, but then are just taken to another way very quickly. Those are very great to see from time to time. You get that very little sometimes in the wrestling world nowadays, especially with WWE. With WWE doing crazy counters and maneuvers and stuff, countering from a special maneuver takes you from an awkward place to a more awkward place because you are in one maneuver and then you have to you have to weasel your way out of that move, and to get to the point, it is very high risk to do so. But Another key point to make is that the main thing to get from a good 4 to 5 star match is that it's entertaining from start to finish. Um, that is basically what that's basically what those are the compiled points of what makes an actual great 4 to 5 star match. Um, as of recently, in July of 2015, there was a couple of great 4 star matches done by John Cena versus Cesaro. John Cena versus Cesaro, that was June 29th, the June 29th Raw. And then Cena versus Cesaro 2 on July 6th, the July 6th Raw. And then we have three more to mention actually. We have Adrian Neville versus Seth Rollins, August 3rd Raw. And then we have we had Randy Orton versus Kevin Owens versus Cesaro, August 10th. That was a Monday Night Raw as well. One of the last 4+ star matches that we've seen as of late from WWE would be the WWE Royal Rumble 2015. That's the fatal 3-way to determine who was actually going to win the championship to defend it at WrestleMania. That was between Brock Lesnar, John Cena, and Seth Rollins. That was the most recent match I saw, and to basically get the key points from that match is to start from the beginning. You had high implications. As you guys know, is that this Brock Lesnar was the champion coming into the Royal Rumble. He was carrying a big hot streak. His most notable win was from SummerSlam of that previous year against John Cena in 2014, where he just simply dominated John Cena from start to finish. I thought it was a great squash match to basically give great example to show that Brock Lesnar was going to be here for a long time and he wasn't going to slow down. This guy was basically starting his beast Suplex City moniker. He was going to start that gimmick as far as the next couple years go. Seth Rollins was coming in as a hot shot, fresh brash heel that had a great moveset. As far as the Pro Wrestler Index, he is rated as the #1 pro wrestler right now. Even as of late, thinking about his injuries, I mean, he's still injured and he's poised to come back later this month. But it still goes to show you that even since his MCL surgery and his ACL, I don't know whether or not it's his MCL or his ACL, but ever since that injury, he's actually still been ranked #1, which is good to see, because it sucks to lose your career out for a little while because of an injury like that. It's very unfortunate. To John Cena's regard, he's very much on a list of 4-star matches, and a lot of people can say what they want about John Cena, but what you can really see is that John Cena works tons of matches. He works a lot of matches. I saw on the September calendar year of 2015, he actually worked 14 dates. That included all the Monday Night Raws. That included no SmackDowns, but it did include various other live events. So that goes to show that this guy does work a lot and he produces a lot of matches, which is why he's still ranked in the top 10 of this Pro Wrestler Index. But in the respect to this match, Royal Rumble 2015, off the tangent here, we're going right into Royal Rumble 2015, is that this match had high implications. There was tons of variety with the movesets that they did. Several signature moves were kicked out of. I remember John Cena using the AA about 2 or 3 times, twice to Seth Rollins and once to Brock Lesnar. Seth Rollins curb stomped both Cena and Lesnar, and then Brock Lesnar gave the one F5 to Seth Rollins at the end to win it at Royal Rumble 2015. And to make another point, to talk about the limited outside interference, J&J Security were there, but it was a triple threat match. So during a triple threat match, anything goes, really, pretty much. So J&J Security only kind of interfered twice, but it was still good to see because it did provide Brock Lesnar a great spot where he actually double German suplexed Jamie Noble and Joey Mercury. What I want to get at is that from the list that I mentioned today about the last 4-star matches of 2015 and 2016, is that Cesaro, John Cena, and Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins are always going to be the regular culprits for a great 4-star match. This isn't saying that they're doing 4-star matches on the regular, but this does go to show you that these guys do know how to produce great matches, and their work ethic really shows through. You could really see that these guys actually are in great physical condition, because it does take great physical condition to be a professional wrestler. These guys do take their workmanship and their craftsmanship very seriously. John Cena is no exception to the rule. Cesaro is no exception to the rule. Both of those guys are coming back a little bit too early from their injuries, in my opinion. But nonetheless, they are here still. John Cena is coming back Memorial Day. I think the Memorial Day Raw, so that's something good to see. Definitely a great way for Monday Night Raw to get good ratings, because Monday everyone's going to be off, and everyone's will have nothing better to do than probably just to watch a good Raw program. So, and then in respect to Cesaro and Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins and Apollo Crews probably have the 4 deepest movesets. We haven't seen a lot of Apollo Crews' actual movesets, just because he's coming fresh off of NXT, fresh off of Dragon Gate. I would imagine during some pay-per-views that when Apollo Crews actually does get over, and he will, this is going to be inevitable, because talent like that will shine through. The cream does rise to the top in this respect. You will see him use his full moveset, hopefully. As of 2015, the main divas to deliver a great match are 2, Sasha Banks and Charlotte. Sasha Banks actually leads the whole shebang when it comes to the actual 4-star matches. She has 6 of them. She has 2 to mention was NXT TakeOver Respect, the main event, the 30-man Iron Woman match between her and Bayley, and then the NXT TakeOver Brooklyn with her and Bayley as well. Those 2 matches were pretty much the best. Those are pretty much arguably the 2 best Divas matches in the history of wrestling. So they are definitely starting this Divas revolution, and you can definitely see it. Other than that, to get to the main point of this whole podcast, after I give you the final thought here, is that a 4-star match and a 5-star match are going to be matches that are going to be the most memorable. Sure, you'll remember a bunch of different matches with several different gimmicks, but the reason why you'll remember those matches more is because that gimmick was involved. You have your Hell in the Cells, your Royal Rumbles, your TLC matches. Those can still get you 4-star ratings, so just be sure to check those out on the Wrestling Observer newsletter or the Pro Wrestler Index website. Those are the 2 references I used for this podcast tonight. Another thing to mention is that we are in a day and age in wrestling where movesets are heightened. In the 1970s and 1980s, we were barely breaking the mold of traditional wrestling. We were starting to see the renaissance of the luchadors, the renaissance of actual stipulations and matches. We always, as wrestling fans, want to see the ante, just the ante upped all the time. We always want to see that. And the business of wrestling does see that as well. They do see that ratings do translate with great matches. So in respect to that, you will definitely see better booking when it comes to, better ratings. That's why you see on the main cards of the last two pay-per-views is that you've seen no people coming out of TNA, ex TNA stars, ex Ring of Honor stars, ex NXT stars coming up. That's why you see all these independent wrestlers coming up, getting signed to WWE, and seeing them flourish because these guys can do work, and especially in the ring. I mean, Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, Adrian Neville, Cesaro, and Apollo Crews can definitely wrestle. They definitely have great movesets. And it does translate well because all these guys have had great matches to be seen. And, you know, what we can get at the end of the day is that wrestling is still evolving as far as new things going. So we have barely opened the surface of what wrestling can evolve to, as far as more moves and more more storylines and everything. I mean, I definitely feel that what the WWE has given to us is a new era. A new era of stars that don't have to weigh 260 pounds and have 5% body fat. These guys can look like everyday people like Kevin Owens. These guys can look like everyday people like Sami Zayn. We're teetering away from the norm of which was in the 1980s and the 1990s with WCW, NWA, where we had big hulking superstar powerhouses that only did a limited amount of moves. You will definitely see a lot more 4 to 5 star matches in the WWE. New Japan Pro Wrestling and Ring of Honor won't keep taking these great matches away from WWE anymore because we've pretty much taken all their stars. That's how WWE has done it. So it's definitely something to show, but that's what I wanted to get on, is that we will see a lot more 4 to 5 star matches in the coming years, and it's definitely going to be good to see, and it's definitely great to be a WWE fan. In other news, there was a lot of WWE superstars were released as of I was about a week ago. You had Damian Sandow, you had Cameron, and the NXT diva, WWE diva Cameron. You also had, let me think, who else was released? Oh yeah, you also had, oh man, it is beyond me who was actually released already. But, oh yeah, Hornswoggle, El Torito, man, anyway, I'm not going to give it away to dead air, but Damian Sandow, Cameron, El Torito, or Hornswoggle are the main, and Alex Riley was also released, to mention as well. Those guys and gals were released. El Torito had to be released because Primo and Epico, Los Matadores, they are getting repackaged, so El Torito's out of the mix. Hornswoggle was already coming out of a suspension because of substance abuse, testing positive for marijuana, so he was out of the mix already. I mean, they're pretty much done from the ruthless aggression gimmick of having midgets and having making fun of little people. So they actually got done with that. Cameron, she had a tons of potential. She did look great. She did appeal to a good demographic, but she just didn't, it just didn't pan out for her. It's unfortunate. She was training a lot harder during the last couple months of her tenure, as noted on her Twitter account. Damian Sandow getting released is really upsetting to me, just because he was over no matter what he did, and he was actually great on the mic. It sucks to see him go, but he will definitely flourish somewhere in TNA, or he will flourish within Ring of Honor as well. There's those 2 chances. And last to mention, I wanted to keep this last one under wraps, but Wade Barrett was actually got released as well. His contract expired in June, but they were actually able to maneuver the contract, so he actually was able to get released early. It's unfortunate that that talent like that has to go to waste, but he was actually always injury prone, so that's something to note as well. But to take away from Wade Barrett is doing a disservice to him, because he was a heel, he's a foreign heel. Foreign heels in WWE automatically are money makers. I mean, look at Sheamus, and look at Rusev. He should have actually been a top heel as far as WWE history goes, and it's unfortunate that it didn't happen his way. It sucks. It sucks to see that because WWE was fed a great wrestler just fed right on their laps for them to use, and it's unfortunate to see that he wasn't used to his full potential. But like I said, for Damian Sandow, Wade Barrett will thrive somewhere within TNA, somewhere within Ring of Honor. He'll definitely thrive. As a WWE star, you'll make a lot more money doing private, doing appearances on a one instance basis rather than having a contract. You can do each one of the ways. It just depends how your contract is laid out. But other than that, guys, I wanted to thank you for listening to the pay-per-review podcast tonight. I am your host, Mark Flores. One other thing to note, too, is that Adam Rose pretty much might be out of the WWE because he's actually been, as of today, May 11th, he was booked under domestic violence, and he was tampering with a witness. So we pretty much might have seen the last of Adam Rose because he's actually serving a suspension as well for using I think it was Adderall or some substance that he wasn't supposed to use. But other than that, guys, I want to thank you for listening to the Paper Review podcast. I am your host, Mark Flores. Tonight's Paper Review podcast episode was brought to you by Game Swappers. Game Swappers, buy, sell, and trade your retro games and next-gen consoles. That's PS4 and Xbox One. You can come into contact with Game Swappers at GAMESWAPPERS. That's GAMESWAPPERS. Game Swappers, buy, sell, and trade. Keep in mind, guys, that if you do share which one of my podcasts, that's Paper Review Wrestling Podcast, the Mark and Andre Current Events Entertainment Show, or the Retro Collecting 101, where I give tips and advice and perspective on retro games and consoles. If you share which three of those, you'll get a 10% discount towards your trade-ins, or you'll get 10% towards 10% more of credit towards your trade-ins. The trade-ins are in-store only. The 10% off towards your games is U.S. only. Game Swappers does ship to all 50 states, so if you do see a game that you like, be sure to direct message them, and they'll be sure to send it out as soon as you send it. They do work with PayPal as well. Other than that, guys, you guys have a good night. This has been Pay-Per-Review Wrestling Podcast with Mark Flores. Thank you.